the show.
You're listening to Cannabis Corner on WNHHLP 103.5 FM, broadcasting live from downtown New Haven. We are streaming live on TuneIn Radio and NewHavenIndependent.org. We're also streaming live video on Facebook and YouTube. Just go to your Facebook page, look us up, or hit see first to see and hear all the great programs that we have here on WNHHLP. And just a reminder that Cannabis Corner is also streaming live on the Greenhaven Media Facebook page and ProCannabisMedia.com. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Cannabis Corner. I'm your host, Joe LaChance, Joe the Weed Guy. It is Monday, July 6, 2026, and I am joined here by my co-host, Uncle Lou, Farmer Lou. How are you today?
Hey, how's it going today, sir? I'm maintaining, just doing the whole rainy day thing. Um, you know,
Yeah, it's
just kind
kind
of
of
letting it
wild
go.
out there.
Yeah,
The plants are getting soaked.
that they're being watered. That is it.
Yeah, they really are. So,
It's good
you
for all
know,
the plants. I stopped by a friend's house this weekend, and he had some squash that was doing really well. Some pepper plants doing really. The pepper plants have been doing really well. They like the heat and the rain and everything. So,
yeah, I actually got my first pepper. I
yeah,
cut
there you
it.
go.
I cut it this weekend,
There you go.
and the tomatoes are starting to bloom. And
We're a
I
little
actually,
ways from the tomatoes, a couple days,
yeah,
but Connecticut corn is starting to come in as well. So if you get from a local farmer, that does make sure they get that first round of corn in, which is right now. For July, it's that early corn for Connecticut corn. So if you are in Shelton or something, Stone Garden they have their first pick of corn.
oh, nice, very good. Yes, shout out to Fred. He's a great guy.
Yeah.
He is, a small farmer out of Shelton. He does not only some produce, not a ton, but he also does beef and chicken and turkey when the season comes, correct?
Turkey's coming next week.
Yeah. So
As they get
he,
ready for the November. The big ones coming next week because those got to grow longer.
right, right. And he also actually he ties into our guest today, believe it or not.
Yep.
He also has a market down there in it's Huntington Shelton border there,
Yep.
and it's called Stone Garden Farm Market, where he sells all the stuff from the farm as well as other specialty items. It's very popular down there. All the Huntington people in that area. I know Andy goes there often.
Yep.
And so yeah, shout out to him. But the tie-in is that he bought that market from Josh Elliott's family. It used to be called Common Bond Market.
Yep.
And Josh Elliott, of course, we know has had that market in Hamden and then that one in Huntington. I'm going to ask him if he still has the one in Hamden. I don't know. He may not. But that's a family business that he used to work in and grew up in before.
And that's the backbone of Connecticut, in all honesty, right, Joe? Small
Yeah,
business owners kind of working in that small business space and trying to continue to be part of the community and affect where you can. So,
well, that's why I like Josh. That's why I want to have him on, honestly, because he's young, first of all. He's been a supporter of cannabis from the beginning. And he's from Hamden, like where we're from. Do you know what I mean?
yep.
He's not from the lower end of the state. And he's, like he said, his family were entrepreneurs. They owned a natural produce market. Do you know what I mean? So he just seems like the kind of down to earth guy that would make a good governor. And that's what we're going to talk about with him today. And I just always have appreciated his support for cannabis, especially in the early days, because let's face it, we didn't have a ton of supporters in the early days.
Well, there's still not a ton of people that want to come on the air and still talk about it. There's some that are vocal and because they understand that the laws are the laws, which is nice. But then there's still people that are anti-cannabis and hate talking about cannabis and don't even want to
Yeah, but
talk about
Josh
it.
has been on many times with us.
Yeah, even though the laws are in place, and this is the time to talk about it, especially if you're part of the government or something. If you're doing it, you're around. Why not have the conversation?
Yeah, and I look at somebody like Josh. We've had a certain attitude and a certain type of person in the governor's chair for the last at least 12, years, right? Since Malloy. Both of those guys came from the same place. They have the same attitude. They're very corporate minded people, and that they tend, obviously, as we see with cannabis, they tend to give more, shall we say, credibility to corporate entities and give them breaks and things like that. I don't know how to put it delicately, but you know what I'm saying. And maybe this having somebody like Josh in office would be a change in that, just an attitude in general of, hey, maybe it's time we focus more on the local people of the community and the
Very
entrepreneurs.
possibly. Who
You
knows?
know,
But that'll happen once he gets there. We got to know about everything about him so that we
yeah,
know how.
because this is primary. Remember, this is good that we go over this now, so I don't have to go over it with him. But they had to have a caucus, if you know what that
Yep.
is. So you have to have 15% to be able to qualify for a primary. He got 25, which is very, very good. So
Yep.
now he qualifies for funding from the Democratic State Committee, whatever. Um, so I think I get his emails. I'm on his list. I think he's awaiting the funding now. So that'll help him advertise more and be able to get the word out more. Because this is a primary, I think it comes on August 11th. So it's the Democratic primary, and he's going up against Ned. So it's a big deal, and it's a big deal that he gets out there and spreads the word. And I just want to be, as somebody who would like to see a change, to come out and support him because he has supported us. And that's, pretty much the bottom line.
That's a great way of looking at it, brother.
Yeah, well, look, I think you can see the whole climate of politics in general is changing,
Yep.
especially the Democrat Party. So I kind of just want to, I want to see if I want to embrace the change or, not.
Well, it'd be nice to hear his stance, what he's got going on. You brought up the information. I'm excited about it. We have some other good guests that are coming on today
Yeah,
as well.
yeah, Josh, he's very busy.
Yep.
It took me a long time just to book this date. And so he could only give us from 1:30 on. So yeah,
That's
well,
beautiful.
before Josh, we have Erin Doolitle. And that's why it's good. Like I said, we covered all this early.
Yep. We'll get in there
Um,
because once that time comes in, people will be able to hear. They'll be able to understand.
yeah,
So we're excited, and we're excited for our listeners too. This is a good opportunity, especially with the information we're going to share, and then finding out more information from the potential.
how people can support him, et cetera,
Yeah.
et cetera. Yeah. And yeah, I want to talk to Erin Doolittle. I had on. She's a supporter of Josh as well, but she's also, there's new laws in Connecticut regarding psilocybin that just went into effect on Monday.
Yep.
No, July 1st.
July
So
1st,
that was Tuesday, I think. I don't, you know me. I don't remember.
beginning of the
Wednesday.
week.
Wednesday last week, but I don't want to get into it. But it's interesting. It doesn't change anything for the actual like possession of it or anything like that. But it's interesting how they definitely are embracing it as a treatment. So I'm gonna wait for Erin before she comes on. But anyway, yeah, what they're doing. But anyway, besides that, how was your 4th of July, Lou?
It was low key,
Quiet?
quiet, very quiet. I saw my
Yeah.
kids for some hot dogs. Um, at a hot dog stand, spent some time with my family. The biggest thing is family. Health of the family hasn't been that amazing. Pops and moms and everything. So just kind of taking time, thank deity, and push forward and everything you got to do.
Right, right. No, I got you. Yeah, I had a really quiet 4th of July. I was telling you before we got on the air. We lost power down here twice. So, it was very, very hot Friday night. and with no fans or anything like that, no lights. And then Saturday morning it went out again at 11. So I just got out the house, went down into the beach, and I spent the whole day at the beach, just sunning,
There you go.
sunning, and where I live, so they put on a fireworks display that was probably better than what they do on the and what the cities and towns do, because where I live. But these people, I mean, they have competitions with each other on who can put the biggest fireworks display, and the cops don't bother them. So that was the end of my night. I got to see a beautiful fireworks display right out my window. I didn't even have to leave the house.
There you go.
After a day at the beach, and the power finally came on, and everything turned out A-OK. So, with us now, we have Erin Doolitle. I call her the mushroom maven, but she is a certified now minister of psilocybin, is it? Is it a minister of psilocybin?
Yeah, it's the Church of Our Earth, and our sacrament is the psilocybin mushroom.
Very, very good. And so you have always been an advocate of natural medicine for healing, because you have been in the psychological social work field for most of your career, right?
Yeah, over 20 years.
Yeah, and then you kind of noticed that traditional therapy, wasn't quite working. And so you were not liking what you were seeing in the industry that you were involved in, and you started exploring cannabis, psilocybin, and probably various other things to help open up the mind of people. And I commend you for that, taking the step and leaving the mental health industry. I guess that's what we'll call them. We'll call them the mental health monopoly.
Yes to that.
Yes to that, right? So I commend you for that. And so now you have your own practice,
Yeah.
and you used to give out medical marijuana certifications, but you've kind of moved away from that and put your focus on psilocybin, right?
Right. Yeah, there's so many amazing people doing medical cannabis now. It's awesome. So I feel free to kind of explore other directions.
Well, let's put it this way. You seem like the person who is exploring new avenues, and I would assume somewhere along the way on your cannabis journey you discovered the psilocybin. So I consider you a trailblazer, because now I don't know if you know, but I wanted to discuss this with you. You know about the new law that Yale that just went into effect on July 1st, right? About
Yes.
the Yale, yeah. So now, what do you think of that? I got the article up right here. So it says it expands the Yale pilot program that uses psilocybin with structured therapy to treat depression, PTSD, anxiety, OCD, and related conditions. Now, this program has been going on for a while, but it was only limited to first responders, veterans, and healthcare workers. Now what they're doing is opening up this study to anyone who is 18 and older and meets the clinical eligibility criteria set by the International Review Board. And maybe you know about that. We could talk a little bit about that. So this, what they've done is, we know that, actually, thanks to our guest today, Josh, psilocybin research has been ongoing in Connecticut at Yale. And it was limited, like they said, but now they have opened it up to the public, and they have said the demand is huge, overwhelming demand for people to join this study. So that just shows you how much people are willing, are more open-minded now and willing to try other options. And why would they be willing to try other options? Because the options they've been getting haven't been working. So.
Right. Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on this?
So, I mean, I'm a little mixed because, Yale, wonderful and great and all, but it's just them, which is a lot of gatekeeping.
Yeah.
For somebody like me who I've done self-study, I hold the master's, I've put in the hundreds of thousands of hours of direct care. It kind of leaves people like me out in the cold. And I don't know exactly like how did it look there? Like I wonder if I could take a tour. Because are we talking about like a sterile environment, or like what parts of the indigenous nature of these plants being honored? Like what's happening?
Can I tell you something about the testing at Yale? All right. And this is something both me and Kibra discovered because they contacted her to see if she wanted to help them get involved. They're doing also a huge THC study too, you know.
Right. Okay.
And I applied for it, and they actually called me back. And we both had the same experience, and we both decided not to participate. And she actually took it further. What they are doing is giving people an IV drip of THC and putting them in a solitary padded room, and then having a psychiatrist come in and talk to them while they are getting an IV drip of THC. Now Kiva was outraged.
Oh my God. I didn't even know they could do that.
And she was saying, like, now what happens if somebody has a bad, and then she said, oh, we give them Ativan.
Oh, great. Yeah.
Yeah. And so she discovered, like, the methods they're using over there aren't exactly true to life uses of who injects THC. I don't know anybody.
What? No, that's unheard of.
And those are not real life effects that they're going to discover. No. And the second thing she discovered is that they were looking for adverse effects only.
Of course.
And not benefits.
No. And setting it up to cause adverse effects. That sounds incredibly anxiety producing. Are you kidding? I'd be terrified.
Yeah, I'm going to bring Keeper on the air because her and I went back and forth with this because she called me outraged, and I said, wow, it's funny that you say that because I got the same experience. As soon as they told me that, I went off on the woman. And then I said, I want nothing to do with this study at all. Oh. And then Keeper called me maybe a few days later and told me the same thing. And it's like, wow. So that's how they're doing it there. Now, I have also heard, how do they do it at Yale? Do you know how they administer the psilocybin? Are they doing a drip? The excuse they gave Keeper because it would be, you know, they could measure the dosage, right? They would get an exact dosage, you know, and et cetera, et cetera. But I'm wondering if they do it with the psilocybin. And that's the first time I ever talked about that on air. The psilocybin the same way.
From what I understand, during
because they're not letting them chew mushrooms.
No,
they're not giving them chocolate bars.
Definitely not. No, I think it is lab-derived psilocybin. It is not from a raw mushroom material. I believe when they were doing just the research, you would get a capsule of psilocybin, and it didn't state how strong that capsule was.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know what kind of dosages they're using.
A capsule makes more sense.
That, yeah, I could at least see, but
if it were, yeah, unfortunately, like you say, it's just like extracted, just straight psilocybin, right?
Right. So you miss sort of the entourage effect of all the other parts of the mushroom that contribute to your full effect.
Right. But yet, the Yale studies have been very, very successful and conclusive, showing that psilocybin definitely works. You know, so even though they may not be using the full, you know, natural mushroom, you know, in its ground up form in a capsule, it still shows that it works.
Right. Yeah.
Regardless of how you're doing it. You know what I mean?
Still gonna help, yeah.
Yeah, they've been showing, I mean, quite a bit of success with people keeping you know, no symptoms of depression they check them in a year and they come back a year later and they still haven't had it. And so, and I also believe what they do is while the person is experiencing the psilocybin quote unquote trip, they are in there talking to them,
right?
You know, about what they're experiencing and also helping them, you know, with some of their, you know, psychological guiding them. So now I don't know who's doing that, but see, that would be something perfect for you.
I know.
'Cause
I
you
know.
do that anyway.
Yeah, they should call me.
Well, that's what I'm surprised. Now, they did call Kibra because of her name in the cannabis industry, and she's a nurse, and they wanted her feedback. They wanted her to get involved, so I'm surprised. Maybe you ought to call them.
Right? And be like, guys, what are you doing?
No, I'm not kidding. Seriously, if they got so many people coming in, right, and you know what I'm saying, they might need some help.
Yeah, I know, right. Like, just, I mean, I know that I haven't been, going through Yale and doing everything, scientifically the way they do it, but my lived experience is pretty lengthy.
Right. Exactly. So I don't know. That's an idea I'm throwing out because it's always better to be involved in the process.
That would be, it would be really nice. That would be nice.
Yeah, send them an email. I don't know. They don't really have a contact here, but we know how to get in touch with you. But I just found it interesting. I saw that article, I read it, and what really interested me was the demand, the high demand. But
Wow.
it says early outcomes suggest that many participants experiencing meaningful improvements in symptoms and functioning. So, this is the new frontier here.
Absolutely. I'd also be curious to see if they do any integration work like after the experience, like when they check in with them in a year, are there things that they sort of ask them to do throughout that time? I'm curious about that.
Well, what really fascinates me is the long-term effect. Do you know what I'm saying? Like I don't want to say, but I mean that is like they put these people, the mental health industry, have had these people on various drugs that they have to take every single day. You know what I'm saying? That are not good for them, and they don't really help the people.
Right.
And however, then you come in with, let's quote unquote, a medicine that you can take once and gives you marked improvements, and basically, you could then move on. I mean,
Right.
what does that mean for the mental health industry? What does that say?
Oh boy. Yeah, no, right. Depending on, the kind of therapist you are, maybe you want people on your couch for a decade because it's a steady paycheck. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but,
Maybe,
you know,
maybe.
maybe, that whole treatment pays, healing, real healing doesn't really.
Doesn't, right. Yeah, I've heard that philosophy.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's quite a question to ponder for a lot of people, and having to really kind of accept, like, you can do about 20 years of therapy in about 4 or 5 hours with
Yeah.
psilocybin. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
So it's definitely going to
I,
flip
I
the
see it
way.
as much of a threat to the mental health industry
Oh, yeah.
as cannabis is to the medical industry.
Big, big time. Yep, all the warnings and the fear mongering and the lying has really started to catch up to the mental health industry, and you got to figure out what side you're on. Are you
And
really
it's
your homework?
catching up to the medical industry too.
Big time. Yep, they're teaching nurses the endocannabinoid system, not the doctors, mind you, but the nursing schools are getting it.
Yes. I remember they had a special CNA in the
Yeah.
beginning before it was incorporated in the curriculum that for endocannabinoid.
Yep.
So yeah, they were on top of that. And I got to be honest with you, the nurses, I go to an APRN, not a doctor.
Same.
They
Yeah.
know just as much,
Yeah.
you know. And you do have that attitude in both industries of it's a paycheck.
Yep.
you
Yep.
know but thank God for people like you who were in the industry and said, well, I want more than a paycheck. I really want to help people.
Yeah.
I don't really want to take perks from a pharmaceutical company to prescribe certain drugs. You know what I mean? I don't really want to keep seeing the same damn people and they make no improvements for years and years. Let's be real. I mean, I don't see any reason for a long term pay unless it's really, really severe.
Right. There are people that like will always need to go to therapy and like I always, like I always want to go,
Yeah.
but
And,
I don't need to walk around a wreck either. Like you can.
and I got to take my meds. And if I don't take my meds, I'm a whole
Right.
different person. Imagine living like that, like
It's
two different you know what I mean?
it's
On
brutal.
meds and off meds,
Yeah.
and yeah, I can, and I'm so happy actually that there are people like you, but that the psilocybin at least is becoming way more accepted than it was as a medicine.
It really is. It's tremendous. It's exciting to see. It's such a different vibe. Cannabis has been fighting tooth and nail every step of the way. And the psilocybin mushrooms, the evidence, the research, it's all so clear. This is just such a different conversation. It's such a different experience. It really is mind blowing.
Well, I do believe this will be the medicine of the future.
I do too. Yeah.
Yeah, I can see the old system just people have really started to open their eyes to it.
Yeah.
And I believe that's a good thing. I do.
Oh, absolutely.
And what I find interesting is as much progress as we have claimed to have made since the Industrial Revolution to now, we're always going back to the old ways and realizing that they were more effective and better, and that we were healthier back then, etc., etc.
Yeah.
And it's really showing, and it's because people have lost trust in all the systems now,
Yeah.
including the food system.
Right.
You're seeing more and more people growing their own, buying organic, going to farmers markets, and not only that, promoting that lifestyle. And that's what I like. I see more and more people who are not only living it, but they are promoting it. When they promote it, other people get the ideas too. And I think that's what we're seeing right now, and it's very, very encouraging. But I wanted to touch base because Josh is here right now, real quick. We'll talk about the church later because
All right.
we only got a limited amount of time with Josh
Right.
because he's a busy man. But
Yeah.
I want to give him his intro, and then we will get into it with Josh. All right, with us is Josh Elliot. He's a five-term Connecticut State Representative, small business owner, and candidate for governor. Born in Guilford, Josh was raised by a single mother who learned early what it means to work hard and show up for people who count on you. He graduated from Ithaca College with a degree in sociology and later earned his law degree from Quinnipiac University. Josh co-owns Time and Season Natural Market in Hamden. Oh, great, you still have it. A family grocery store his mother founded nearly 30 years ago. Running a small business taught him that leadership isn't about titles, it's about solving problems and listening to people you serve and work with every single day. The 2008 financial crisis and Citizens United's decision drew Josh into politics. After organizing with Bernie Sanders' campaign and the Working Families Party, recruited him to run for office. His first state race was against sitting Speaker of the House. After Josh announced, the Speaker decided it wasn't worth the fight and retired. Love it. Josh went on to win despite losing his convention endorsement 18-3. In the legislature, Josh founded the Progressive Causes and Tax Equity Caucus in his third term. He chaired the Higher Education Committee and now serves as Deputy Speaker, Screening Chair, and Caucus Co-Chair. Josh is running for governor because working families in Connecticut pay 20% of their income in tax and local taxes, while the wealthiest pay just 8%. And he believes it's time that for leadership that will change with that. With a lawless federal administration threatening our rights and values, Connecticut needs a governor willing to use every tool at our disposal to fight back. Josh lives in Hamden with his girlfriend Jen and his yellow labs, Hermione and Vega, and his tabby cat Archie. Josh, welcome to the show. I had to give you the full intro, and we were talking earlier, Lou and I, about how long you have been coming on this show. Before you're running for governor, just to discuss cannabis and the legalization of it. And you have always been a strong supporter of the legalization of cannabis,
Right.
and also the psilocybin as well. And Erin and I were just discussing, how Yale has now expanded their psilocybin program and all that. And I just wanted to show my appreciation and thank you for all that you have done, to help get cannabis legal and over the line. And, I really, I've always wanted to support what you do. So I wanted to have you come on and talk to the cannabis community because, first of all, congratulations on the caucus. That was excellent. That was excellent. And, now I know your campaign can take another step up.
Mm-hmm.
So, let's start. What made you decide to go from state rep to gubernatorial candidate?
It was born of the frustration of trying to pass a law that creates a fair economy, a fair tax structure, and seeing how there's literally one person standing in the way now. That we have super majorities in both chambers, and it is solely and exclusively Ned Lamont who holds us back from allowing for equitable investment in our education system, our transportation system. As you alluded, this is a system where the top 4,500 income earners in our state pay less than 8% of their income to state and local taxes. And the bottom 1.2 million income earners in our state, that's a third of our state, pay over 20%. And this is a system that benefits Ned Lamont, who makes $55 million a year in passive generational banking income, who has spent over $70 million of his own money to ultimately, in my perspective, buy this seat. And now he wants to sit there and doesn't really have any plan of what he wants to do. He just wants to sit there and be there. And given that I am a policy-oriented legislator, I think that we as a state can just do better. And that being tongue-in-cheek about having somebody in that position who doesn't care about policy as though it's a joke, I don't understand how that's a joke or why it's a joke when people literally cannot afford to live in our state. And
go ahead.
That's it. It's that simple.
And I agree with you because I'm not in that 4,500 people. That's for damn sure. And I do find it unaffordable to live in this state. And I've lived here all my life, and I do notice that the last 12, at least more, have been run by people who are more corporate oriented, who are from that part of the state. You've been pretty frank about all this, right? So let's be real. Ned Lamont comes from Greenwich, Fairfield County, the richest part of the state. Dan Malloy came from the same area, and we've been kind of under this thumb of a corporate, let's take care of our friends mentality for that many years, since both of those guys. And I believe it's time for change as well, and I think that people are ready for it. And what I like about your campaign is you don't pull any punches. Your materials, I get your emails, you're going right after Nate. You're not playing pretty with him, and I like that.
I am not saying anything that other people aren't thinking and feeling.
You're just speaking.
I'm just taking that and putting it right back out there. The reason that we are the first candidacy in 50 years to successfully get on the ballot against an incumbent in their own party, the reason that we have raised more money than any candidate in the history of the Citizens Election Program over the last 2 decades, is because the message that I'm running on has touched a nerve.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's touched a nerve because it speaks to people's lived reality, which is that the governor can go around the state saying, hey, isn't everything the best it's ever been? Look how great we're doing. Because he literally is unable to conceive that his reality, lived reality of being a near billionaire, is not what other people are feeling. That people are doing everything right and they're working 40, 60 plus hours a week, and year over year, for some reason, things are getting harder and harder to survive. When you're looking at the cost of energy and housing and transportation and food and childcare and health insurance, and wages are not keeping pace with those costs, while we are literally cementing generational wealth as a system that we have chosen, as a system that we have continued to choose. And I don't understand why, other than simple inertia. We have been
those steady habits.
We've become so accustomed to just hiring the nice guy that we are nicing ourselves into bankruptcy. I mean, people are getting pushed out of their homes because what is ultimately happening when we don't have a tax system that's fair is Ned Lamont will say, I have given the middle class the largest tax cut that the state has ever seen. And he's talking about a shave, a sliver off of two of the brackets in the middle. But what he blithely ignores is the fact that we are depriving municipalities of billions of dollars because of Ned Lamont. What this means is that when the cost of police and fire and public works, transportation, and the education system, which is anywhere from a half to 2/3 of a town and city's budget, when those costs are going up, there's only one way a municipality can make up that cost, and that is the property tax, which is a deeply, deeply regressive tax, whether or not you own a house. If you are renting, it hits you even harder because all of those costs are passed right through to the renter.
Yeah.
Ned Lamont has overseen far and away the largest tax increase to the middle class that our state has seen. And he just doesn't want to take ownership of it. And while people are struggling, the fact that they were going to just automatically vote in this guy again, when he is the sole reason that people are struggling, and I saw nobody else throwing their hat in the ring. And we have an easy majority in both chambers ready to fix this issue, but we can't get it over the billionaire who has veto power. That's why I'm doing this.
Josh, thank you. That is great. And I'm so glad that it was amazing nobody else stood up. I'm so glad you did, because there was rumors around that he wasn't going to run again. And
right.
and everybody was real happy.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, he announced that he was going to. Now, had he not announced that he would run again, would you have run anyway?
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Good. Because you don't want someone else like him getting in there. So I wanted to go over some of the stuff on your platform.
Sure.
So we just talked about fair taxes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so basically, the rate on, first of all, you're right about property taxes. Boy, mill rates went up. Everybody I know who owns a house complained about the mill rate going up in their city this year to outrageous amounts. So yeah,
it's going to happen over and over and over.
Now
it's going to get worse and worse.
Now, what do you see as a solution? First of all, yes, I agree. If you make, to add more tax to the wealthier part, but also, is it a thing of distribution of where Ned decides to put the monies as well? Like, in other words, you say he deprives it from education. is that because he puts it somewhere else that really doesn't need to be?
It's because when the costs go up and you aren't getting enough revenue from the state, you only have the property tax to offset. So the education cost sharing grant is one of the block grants that the state sends to municipalities. You have pilot, which is payment in lieu of taxes. That is when you have, let's say, a religious institution, a government building, a hospital, an educational facility, just a general nonprofit that don't pay taxes on their property. What the state does to recognize that there's that burden on the municipality is it makes up a percentage of that which the town or city cannot tax. So that's why it's called pilot, payment in lieu of taxes. But generally speaking, it's not 100%. If Yale owns enough property where they should be giving $50 million to New Haven, I don't know what the number is. The state will send back a few million. It's a percentage. It's somewhere in the range. It's a little more than that. It's somewhere in the range of 30 to 70. Because the way that law was written was it was up to 70, but the way it was actually enacted, practiced, was closer to 30 to 40%. Now it's in tiers of 30, 40, or 50. It's a little bit more streamlined to know exactly what that amount's going to be. But then you have the ECS formula. That's the Education Cost Sharing Grant, and that is that the state says we're going to be giving you some money for the cost of educating the children in our state in K through 12, and that's based off of per capita income and the number of people and the amount of special needs and the amount of your of how much property you have, the annualized grand list, metrics, and so money gets sent back that way. But the base of what we expect to spend on a student has kept flat for about 13 years. And so because that was so low, places like, let's say, Greenwich, with no mill increases, can spend more money on their kids, but places like New Haven can't.
Right.
And so you either are going to be in a position where you are increasing property taxes, or you are cutting teacher positions, and more often than not, municipalities are doing both.
Right. So it's the trickle down effect of, okay, the municipalities, the cities and towns are making up the deficit that they don't get from the state because the state's not recognizing the costs have gone up so much.
Right.
They have to make it up by taxing their residents a higher mill rate. So it's a trickle down thing. Okay, good. Now I understand that. Let's talk about the energy costs, because this is another thing that people are constantly complaining about. Now, especially recently, didn't I just see Eversource looking for 11%?
That's right.
Now, how did they get away with this? Why does Connecticut have such high energy costs?
So there are four distinct components of what these companies charge, Eversource and UI. It is the cost of the energy, distribution, transmission, and the public benefits charge. Now, when they buy, because let's just think about what they do. These companies, they buy energy, they sell it back to us, they maintain the infrastructure that allows the obtaining and sending. That's all they do. And that energy that they buy and sell back to us, they actually don't make money off of that. That they do at cost. What they make money off of is the cost to transmit and the cost to keep up their grid. That's what they charge us. Now, Eversource and UI are investor-owned utilities. They are of the 70% in the US. And what I mean by that is that 70% of energy is distributed privately through IOUs, investor-owned utilities, and 30% is distributed publicly. In fact, Nebraska, as a state, only has publicly delivered utilities, energy.
I see.
So what we are paying,
They're private contractors, basically.
what we are paying is the maintenance of the grid. So what the incentive is for these companies is to continue growing out the grid as big as possible, continuing to make massive capital investments, because the more that they invest, the more that they'll get as a return, because they're getting about a 9% return on equity. So they are going out to get capital from the bond markets. They're investing, and then they make the difference between what they're borrowing money at and then what they're charging of that with that 9%. And that's all profit. What we are paying when Avangrid, the parent company of Eversource, doubles their profit to go to $1.69 billion, when their CEO makes at minimum $15 million a year. There was a couple of years where he made $19 million. More than almost even one of the top 15 paid CEOs in the country for a utility. We are paying for their profit.
Yeah.
And so over the last 20 years, about 60 municipalities have worked toward purchasing their own grid, because there's something special that these companies do. It's the line workers that fix the poles, that run the wires. They have an administrative function to make sure that the billing goes out. But there's nothing else they really do. The rest is just profit.
Yeah, isn't Wallingford on its own grid?
In places where energy is delivered publicly, it's 30 to 40% less. Wallingford is one of 6 towns in Connecticut that has public distribution of energy. And so what I am running on is the idea of creating a public option for a municipality to purchase their grid, where the state will back it with bonds. Now, the way that utility companies kill this, because over the last 20 years,
of course, lobby,
municipalities have tried, and it's only been successful 9 of those 60 times. And when it's successful, it's very successful. What ends up happening, the way that they kill these ideas, is to say, well, you can buy our stuff, but it's going to be this expensive. And they make the numbers not math out. So you can buy their infrastructure, but you're buying it at such a cost that it ends up being twice as expensive.
Right.
As
you still have to charge. Yeah, you still have to charge high amounts to make up.
So that is why out the gate, to solve for that problem, because that is the sole problem, even with the Aquarian deal, that was the issue, is that the public-private partnership was buying it at such an elevated cost, it was bailing out Eversource. And now the public is on the hook for all the debt that Eversource had accumulated. Okay, that's not this. This is just to say that when we go forward in terms of ensuring the ability to purchase the grid, we value at a level that is fair. And now, since these are regulated monopolies that are printing money, and it's safe, solid, stable money that has no risk, they're making all this money with zero risk because they're protected by the government. It is fair to say we will value your infrastructure at what your infrastructure costs. We're not going to try to go by market value, because there's no market that exists for the infrastructure of a utility. So we are going to pay you what the book value is, what the actual value to manufacture that pole, what it is in your books when you go to depreciate and things like that. So once you do that, the number comes down significantly, and then when you're buying that infrastructure, the numbers work. And that's what we need to do. And it's going to be a hard fight, because everybody's fighting this. There's a previous Speaker of the House, Joe Erin, is on Capitol Report. He gets paid $50,000 a year by Eversource to lobby, and he's on there dumping all over this campaign for the last year. I'm a threat. Ned Lamont's campaign says this is like pie in the sky, impossible. It's possible to pay these rates, these electric rates every year, and have no plan. That's possible. And then, of course, you have the conservative media, which is saying this is all all like not possible.
Right.
This is all part of the utilities game plan
Oh,
to
yeah.
purchase up the political culture.
Wow. See? Yeah. All right,
Let's
let's
take
move
another
on.
fight.
Let's move
Sure.
on to healthcare.
Sure.
This is a big issue for me. I'm a senior citizen. I'm on Medicaid and Medicare. Right now, I'm trying to renew my Medicaid, and they're giving me a lot of problems. So, tell us a little bit about, I like right here, health insurance as an industry should not exist. Bravo. All right, tell us a little bit about that. And you're right about, yeah, everything you say here, right, just on the front page.
Yeah. I mean, this is not an industry that's more than 100 years old. It's about 70, a little over 70 years old. It manifested through World War II as being a benefit that companies provided. And it has since become one of the most problematic parts of living in America.
Right.
And where a hospital stay can be, $50,000 a night.
Yeah.
I mean,
absolutely.
numbers that literally just
blow your mind. They blow your mind.
It is fully divorced from reality, and that is the balance between insurance and healthcare companies. Now, hospitals aren't blameless; they aren't faultless. They're part of this as well.
Mm-hmm.
But having an economic incentive to deny claims, to be seeking efficiency and efficiency only, and not seeking to ensure best outcomes. There should be no profit motive in ensuring that people are healthy, and that's really what we're talking about. And I just know that, again, walking up, the number 2 lobbyist is the Connecticut Hospital Association, number 1. Eversource is number 2. Just so you know where like the power structure lies.
Sure, we know all about lobbyists and how they influence laws. Just from my experience with cannabis, it's the same thing. Corporate interests have the money. So there you go. Eversource is in there, and Josh, you being a rep, they probably play more games in the Senate, but you know how that works, right? The money and sometimes how it gets spread around. But anyway, campaigns get funded, right? Things like that. Would you be willing to tackle the idea of getting the lobby out?
That's not a thing that's ever going to happen, because the reason is it's protected by free speech.
Yeah.
You just have to elect people that are willing to ignore the noise. That's all.
Yeah,
that's
very,
all.
very true. And diminish their power. You got to diminish their power, basically.
The onus is on the elected official. It's not about stopping the speech. I mean, the speech really, to me, isn't an issue. The issue is electing people that don't have vision for what they want to accomplish. And when we're talking about health insurance, getting everybody on the same plan is the goal. Now, you're going to have people that will probably end up on Medicare and Medicaid because you can't ignore big federal dollars. You should absolutely do that.
Yeah, a 65-year-old, you should. Yeah.
But barring
I'm on
that,
it.
Everybody should be on a plan that is not just private health insurance.
Now, let me ask you overall. We're talking, concepts here. Do you have plans like for all these different things? Like, in other words, do you have an idea of how you could implement Medicare for all in Connecticut? Is there, you know what I mean? In other words, coming in with concepts is great, but plans for each thing, because that's what I think people really need to see is like, how can it happen? Because like you say, you always get the resistance. Oh, it's never, now you can't do that. It's never going to happen. Well, you can't change the grid. But if they see concrete plans, I really think that is at least what I like to see. You know what I'm saying? I really think that is an important thing, because you don't see Ned doing that. He doesn't know.
Concept of a plan, a lot of blue ribbon committees and studies and commissions. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of what I'm talking about, I'm also like, I'm not the inventor. I'm
Right.
I'm a driver.
You have a coalition.
Well, it's also about looking across the state, across the world, and seeing across the state, across the country, and across the world where other cultures do certain things, how they pay for things, and just taking best practices.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's like there's nothing that we need to create from scratch. We just need to figure out how things are done and how they're done well, and then do those things, adopt those practices.
I love that approach, Josh. I just got the word from our producer that we got 90 seconds left. So, real quick, tell us how people can support you, your website, your social media, where they can find your platform, and I would love to have you on again. But let's remind the people this is August 11th, the primary. So give us everything in about 60 seconds.
Yeah, the on August 3rd is early voting. 5 weeks from tomorrow, or 4 weeks from tomorrow. 5 weeks from tomorrow is August 11th, which is the actual primary date. If you are, this is for, again, a primary for Democrats. So if you are unaffiliated, you have weeks to register as Democrat to be able to vote. But if you are independent or you are Republican or Green or WFP, you cannot change your affiliation. You will not be able to vote. The website is josh4ct.com, F-O-R, josh4ct.com. I cannot raise any more money because I've done all the money raising, and we're going to be spending about $4 million over the next month, at which we haven't even started spending that money yet.
Right.
We started getting our ads ready to go. And the number one thing that we need are for people to talk about this campaign. And if they want to do more, connecting to the campaign at Josh4CT, or going to the website and connecting through there so we can get people to make calls and knock some doors.
Okay, and they can get you on social media at Josh4CT as well. Josh, I want to thank you so much for coming on. Erin, thank you as well. Say goodbye to Josh. And please support Josh Elliott. We need a change in Connecticut. We cannot stand 4 more years of this higher cost of living. Please get out there, support Josh. I know the show itself supports him. I support him personally. Thank you so much, Josh, for everything you've done. We love you. Best of luck in that primary.
Thanks, sir. Thank you.
Right. Yeah. All right. Like, share, subscribe at Joe the Weed Guy or at Greenhaven Media. We will see you next week. Thank you, Erin Doolitle. Thank you, Uncle Lo. I love you.